My name is Eleanor. I'm 68 years old, and yesterday my own daughter posted a poll about me online. It read, "What's worse, my mom's witchy turkey neck or her irritating voice?" My whole family voted. They all left laughing comments. When I found out, I didn't cry. I did something they never thought I'd do. 5 hours later, they were all begging for my forgiveness. It all started when my 15-year-old granddaughter showed me her phone with a wicked grin. "Grandma, check this out," she said. And there it was, a picture that my daughter Rachel had taken of me last Sunday at a family barbecue while I was distracted, serving the pie. It was a photo that caught my loose neck skin and a tired expression. Below it, the poll from my own daughter. The votes were already at 238. The comments were worse than the votes. My son-in-law Peter had written, "Definitely the voice, because at least she can cover her neck with a scarf." My own son, Austin, had put, "Why can't both options be the winner?" My daughter-in-law, Miranda, had joined in with, "About time someone said it." But what hurt the most were the comments from people I thought respected me. Neighbors, people from our church, distant relatives, all laughing at me as if I were a joke, as if my 68 years of life, of sacrifice, of unconditional love for my family were reduced to a turkey neck and a voice that apparently bothered them. My granddaughter kept laughing as I read, "It's super viral, Grandma. It already has more than 1,000 shares." Viral. My humiliation was viral. In that moment, I felt something I had never experienced in my life. A cold, calculating calm that rose from my stomach to my head. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was pure determination. I handed the phone back to my granddaughter with a smile she couldn't interpret. "How very interesting, sweetie, very interesting." She ran off to tell her mother that Grandma had seen the poll and was taking it super well, but I wasn't taking it well at all. I had understood something fundamental. For years, I had been the fool who financially supported half the world, who cooked for everyone, who babysat the grandkids, who lent money that was never paid back, who opened my home when they had problems. And this was how they thanked me. I stayed and read every comment, memorizing every name, every insult disguised as a joke. My sister-in-law, Veronica, had written, "Finally, someone had the courage to say what we all think." We all think. Seriously, they had all been thinking for years that I was a witch with an irritating voice. The same Veronica to whom I lent $3,000 last year when her husband lost his job. I kept reading. My neighbor from across the street had commented, "Oh, poor Eleanor, but her daughter is right." The same neighbor who comes running when she needs me to watch her dog, who asks to borrow my ladder, who always finds a way to stay for dinner when she smells what I'm cooking. But the comment that hit me the hardest was from my younger sister, Sophia. My own flesh and blood had written, "Eleanor has always been so dramatic, but now I understand why my kids don't want to visit her much." Dramatic. Me, who had swallowed insults, scorn, and humiliation for decades without saying a single word. That night when I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. Not from sadness, but because my mind was working at high speed. I remembered every time I had paid for Rachel's expenses out of my own pocket, every time I had watched her kids for free while she went out with friends, every time I had cooked for 20 people at family gatherings and ended up doing the dishes alone while everyone else had fun in the living room. I remembered when Peter lost his job 2 years ago, and I paid 3 months of their apartment rent. When Austin wanted to buy a car, and I lent him $5,000 that he never paid back. When Miranda needed money for her cosmetic surgery, and I used up my savings to help her. And now this, a public poll making fun of my physical appearance and my voice. A poll where my own children actively participated, where my grandchildren laughed at me, where my whole family had turned me into the town laughingstock. But I had decided something. If they wanted to see the witch, they were going to meet the real witch. And tomorrow, my revenge would begin. The next morning, I woke up with a mental clarity I hadn't had in years. It was as if all the fog of self-pity and doubt had dissipated overnight. I put on my favorite green dress, carefully did my hair, and put on makeup as if I were going to an important meeting, because that's exactly what I was going to do. First, I called my bank. "Good morning, Ms. Eleanor," said the manager who has known me for 15 years. "I need to make some changes to my accounts." I told her in a voice that was firmer than I had used in a long time. "Could I come in this morning?" Within 30 minutes, I was sitting across from her, reviewing every automatic transfer, every joint account, every loan I had given. While I waited for the papers, I took out my phone and reread the poll. The votes had risen to 512. The comments kept coming. Someone had shared the post in the neighborhood WhatsApp group. My humiliation was now the entertainment of the entire community. But something else caught my attention. Rachel had responded to some of the comments with more details about me. "My mom has always been this dramatic," she had written. "When we were kids, we were embarrassed to bring friends home because we knew she'd start with her long, boring stories." Long, boring stories. That's what she called the times I told them about my childhood, about how I had worked since I was 14 to help my family. In another comment she had put, "The worst is when she wears that old green dress and thinks she looks elegant. We just smile so we don't hurt her feelings, but it's so embarrassing." The green dress I was wearing at that moment, the dress I had bought for Austin's wedding, where I spent $300 because I wanted to look presentable for my daughter-in-law's family. But it was reading Austin's comments that I truly understood the depth of his betrayal. My son had written, "My mom lives in a fantasy where she thinks we're a close family, but the truth is, we only go to her house because she's a good cook and always has money to lend us. If it weren't for that, believe me, we wouldn't put up with her melodramas." Melodramas? He called it melodramas when I had cried after his father died. The nights I spent awake taking care of him when he had pneumonia at 20, the constant worry I have for all of them. The bank manager interrupted my thoughts. "Ms. Eleanor, here are the documents. I have canceled all the automatic transfers you requested. The joint account with your daughter Rachel has been closed, and we have blocked access to her additional credit card. I have also prepared the documents to cancel the loans you had pending collection." I signed each paper with a determination that surprised even myself. Rachel had a card connected to my checking account for 3 years. She used it for her daily expenses, for gas for her car, for groceries. Peter had access to my savings account for his business emergencies. Austin had been receiving automatic transfers of $500 a month since he lost his job last year. All of that was ending today. I left the bank and drove to the grocery store. I needed time to think, to plan my next move. As I walked through the aisles, I remembered the first time Rachel had disrespected me in public. It was 5 years ago, at my oldest granddaughter's birthday. I had prepared all the food, decorated the house, bought the presents. When the guests arrived, Rachel was telling the other mothers, "My mom always goes overboard with these parties. I think she lives vicariously through her grandkids because her own life has been pretty boring." I stood in the kitchen doorway with the cake on a platter in my hands, listening to her describe my life as boring. My life, where I had raised 2 kids alone after their father died, where I had worked double shifts for years to pay for their college, where I had sacrificed my dreams so they could achieve theirs. That night, after everyone had left, I asked her why she had said that. "Oh, Mom, don't be so sensitive," she replied. "It was just casual conversation." Casual. My pain was casual to her. I remembered another occasion 2 years ago when Austin brought a new girlfriend over for dinner. Throughout the meal, the girl asked me questions about my life, my work, my interests. Austin constantly interrupted her. "Don't get her talking too much because she won't stop," he said, laughing. My mom has a habit of turning any conversation into a monologue about the past. I kept quiet that night, too. I swallowed the humiliation, smiled, and continued serving the dinner I had cooked for hours to impress his girlfriend. And now this, a public poll where my whole family had actively participated in ridiculing me, where my own children had publicly validated that I was a nuisance in their lives. I returned home with only 1 bag of groceries. I had only bought things for myself. my favorite tea, some cookies I like, fresh flowers for my table. For the first time in years, I didn't buy anything thinking about what my family needed. I sat in my living room on the sofa where I had spent so many nights waiting for my kids to come home when they were teenagers. The same sofa where I had comforted Rachel when her first boyfriend left her, where I had held Austin when he couldn't get into the university he wanted. I took out my phone again. The poll now had 731 votes. It had reached Facebook groups all over the city. It was a local trending topic. My humiliation had transcended family boundaries. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like hiding. I felt like fighting. That afternoon, I decided it was time to act strategically. I wasn't going to have a meaningless emotional outburst. I was going to be surgical, precise, devastating. I sat at my desk and took out a notebook where I began to write down everything my family owed me, not just in money, but in time, effort, and dignity. Rachel owed me $8,000 that I had lent her for the down payment on her house, money she was supposedly going to pay me back when their finances improved. That was 3 years ago. Besides, I watched her 2 children 3 afternoons a week for free while she went to the gym or met up with friends. Calculating an average cost of $40 an hour per child, that was $240 a week. In 3 years, she had accumulated $43,200 in free childcare. Austin owed me $5,000 for the car loan, plus the $500 a month I had been automatically transferring to him for 14 months. Another $7,000. But that wasn't all. I paid his health insurance because he was still looking for a stable job. $400 a month for 2 years. Another $9,600. Peter used my garage as free storage for his auto parts business. Anywhere else, that space would cost him at least $200 a month. In 4 years, that was $9,600 in rent he had never paid me. Miranda had used my extra credit card last month to buy new clothes for her job. The charges appeared on my statement without warning. When I confronted her, she said she had forgotten to tell me and would pay me when she got her bonus. In total, my family owed me more than $50,000 in direct loans and free services. $50,000 that had come out of my pocket for people who were now publicly making fun of my physical appearance. I picked up my phone and dialed the first number. "Hello, Rachel," I said when she answered. My voice sounded strangely calm, almost sweet. "How are you, honey?" "Oh, Mom, I'm so glad you called," she replied with that fake cheerfulness she used when she wanted something from me. "Hey, could you watch the kids tomorrow? Peter and I want to go to the movies and, we don't have money for a sitter." "Of course I have no problem watching them," I said. "But it's going to cost you $40 an hour for each child. That's $80 an hour. If you go to the movies and then to dinner, I estimate you'll need 4 hours. $320 payable in advance." The silence on the other end of the line was delicious. "What? Mom, are you kidding? You've never charged me to watch my kids." "You're right," I replied. "And it was my mistake. But witches with irritating voices also need to pay their bills. Besides, I need to talk to you about the $8,000 you owe me. I want a payment plan with specific dates." "Mom, what are you talking about? Are you feeling okay?" "I feel perfectly fine. In fact, I've never felt better. Oh, and by the way, that poll of yours is really funny. It's already up to 943 votes. The whole city is commenting on my turkey neck and my voice. It must be so satisfying for you to see your mother turned into a public laughingstock." Another silence. "Mom, it was just a joke. I didn't think you would take it so seriously." "A joke," I repeated. "A joke is telling a funny story at the dinner table. Publicly humiliating your 68-year-old mother on the internet for strangers to make fun of her physical appearance is not a joke, Rachel. It's pure cruelty." "But Mom, there's no, but Mom. I want the money you owe me in monthly payments of $1,000 starting next Friday, and if you need me to watch the kids, it's with payment in advance, just like any professional." I hung up before she could respond. My heart was pounding, but not with fear. It was excitement. For the first time in decades, I had stood up for myself. I immediately dialed the second number. "Hello, Austin." "Hey, Mom, how are you?" Listen, my monthly transfer didn't come through on Friday. Did you forget to do it? No, I didn't forget. I canceled it along with your health insurance. By the way, I hope you find a job soon because you're going to need to pay for your own medical coverage starting next month. What, Mom? What's going on? You can't do that. I depend on that help. Ah, so now you depend on my help. How interesting. Yesterday in your comment, you said you only came to my house for the food and money, as if it were a bad thing. Now it turns out you do need that help. Mom, that was just... It was part of Rachel's joke. You're going to use the joke excuse too. Your sister already tried that, and it didn't work. Listen to me, Austin. I need you to pay back the $5,000 I lent you for the car and the $7,000 from the monthly transfers you've received. That's $12,000 in total. Mom, that's impossible. I don't have that kind of money. Besides, we never talked about the transfers being loans. You're right. We never talked about a lot of things, like the fact that my voice apparently irritates you so much that it's embarrassing for you, or that you only tolerate my presence for economic convenience. But now we're talking about everything. Mom, you're overreacting. You know what overreacting is, son? Overreacting is spending $60,000 of my savings on a family that sees me as a joke. Overreacting is sacrificing my vacations, my whims, my dreams to support people who then make fun of me in public. $60,000? What are you talking about? Sit down and get ready to learn some basic math, Austin. Between direct loans, monthly transfers, free childcare, insurance payments, use of my spaces, and various services, your family owes me more than $50,000. And that's not counting the emotional cost of years of humiliation. For the first time in the conversation, Austin fell completely silent. I could hear his agitated breathing through the phone. I want a written payment plan by Monday, I continued. If not, I'll start legal action to recover everything you owe me. And believe me, I have all the receipts, all the bank transfers, all the proof. I've been very meticulous with my accounting. Mom, you can't be serious. We're your family. Exactly. We're family, and families respect each other. They don't humiliate each other in public. They don't make fun of the physical appearance of their elders. They don't turn their mothers into viral jokes for the entertainment of strangers. I hung up and immediately dialed the third number. Peter answered on the first ring. Eleanor, how are you? I need to stop by and pick up some boxes of parts I have in your garage. Perfect, I replied. The storage cost for 4 years is $9,600. You can pay me in cash when you come for your boxes. Storage cost? But you never charged me for using your garage. And you never participated in publicly humiliating me on the internet. Circumstances change, Peter. So do arrangements. What are you talking about, Eleanor? Peter asked in a nervous voice. What public humiliation? Don't play dumb with me, Peter. I saw your comment on Rachel's poll, the one where you said my voice was worse than my turkey neck because at least the neck can be covered with a scarf. Very funny, right? Your whole family laughing at the comment. The silence stretched for several seconds. Eleanor, I didn't think you were going to see that. Oh, of course. You didn't think the witch with the irritating voice knew how to use the internet. What else didn't you think about, Peter? Didn't you think it would hurt me? Didn't you think that after 4 years of me storing your stuff for free in my garage, of me lending you money every time your business had problems, of me cooking for you and your kids every Sunday, I deserved a minimum of respect? Eleanor, it was just a joke between family. Stop telling me it was a joke. I exploded for the first time. A joke is something that makes everyone laugh, including the person being made fun of. Do you see me laughing, Peter? Do you see me having fun with the fact that 900 strangers are voting on what part of my body they find most repulsive? It wasn't my intention. Your intention was exactly that, to humiliate me, to make me feel ugly, old, annoying. You know what's saddest? You succeeded. Last night, I stood in front of the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I hated myself. I hated myself for being 68, for having wrinkles, for having a voice that apparently irritates the people I love most. Eleanor, please. But today I woke up different, Peter. Today I woke up understanding that the problem isn't me. The problem is all of you. A family of ingrates who have turned my generosity into their entitlement and my love into their entertainment. I hung up, and immediately my doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Rachel's car parked outside. Not even an hour had passed since our phone conversation, and she was already here. She was probably coming to try to fix things with fake tears and emotional manipulation. I opened the door before she could knock. "You got here fast," I said. "You already talked to your brother and your husband?" "Mom, we need to talk," Rachel said, pushing the door open to come in without being invited. "You can't be serious about all this money stuff." "And why can't I be serious? Because I'm your mother, and I'm supposed to put up with everything quietly? Because we're family, Mom. Family doesn't charge each other for favors." I laughed, but it wasn't a cheerful laugh. It was a bitter laugh, filled with years of pent-up frustration. "Seriously, you're going to lecture me on what it means to be family? You who put a picture of me on the internet for strangers to make fun of my appearance? You who wrote comments detailing why I embarrass you?" "Mom, I told you it was a joke." "It was a joke! It was a joke!" I yelled. "That's your answer for everything. You know what, Rachel? I don't care if it was a joke or not anymore. What I care about is that after 68 years on this earth, after raising 2 kids alone, after sacrificing my dreams for yours, after giving you everything I have and more, you see me as a joke." "That's not true." "Yes, it is true," I exploded completely. "That's exactly what you wrote. That my stories are long and boring, that my green dress embarrasses you, that you only smile so you don't hurt my feelings, but that it's actually embarrassing to be with me." Rachel turned pale. She didn't know I had read those specific comments. "You know, when I bought this green dress," I continued, pointing to my clothes, "I bought it for your wedding to Peter. I spent $300 I didn't have because I wanted to look presentable for your special day, because I wanted you to be proud of your mother. And now it turns out that all this time you've thought I look ridiculous in it." "Mom, I didn't mean—" "And my long, boring stories? Are you referring to the times I told you about my childhood, about how I met your father, about the sacrifices I made to give you a better life? Those stories that are boring to you are my entire life, Rachel. They are the experiences that shaped me, that gave me the strength to raise you alone after your father died." Tears began to stream down my cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation, tears of decades of unspoken words that were finally finding an outlet. "You know what's most painful?" I continued. "It's not that you made fun of my turkey neck or my voice. The painful part is realizing that the woman who worked 3 jobs to pay for your college, who sold her jewelry to buy you new clothes every school year, who skipped meals so you would never go hungry, that woman is a source of embarrassment for her own children." "Mom, it's not like that." "Of course it is. Why do you think Austin wrote that you only come to my house for the food and the money? Why do you think Peter felt comfortable making fun of my appearance in public? Because for years I have taught you that you can treat me however you please without consequences." Just then, Austin arrived. He had seen his sister's car and had obviously coordinated to come together. He walked into the house as if nothing had happened. "Mom, can we talk like adults?" he said with that condescending tone he always used when he wanted to manipulate me. "I think you're overreacting to a simple internet joke." That word, overreacting, the same word they had used my whole life to minimize my feelings, to make me believe my pain wasn't valid. "Overreacting," I repeated slowly. "Austin, come here. I want to show you something." I led him to my desk where I had my computer open. "See? These are the comments on your sister's poll. Read them out loud. All of them." "Mom, there's no need. Read. I want you to read out loud every insult, every taunt, every cruel comment that strangers have written about your mother. I want you to read the comment where you say you only come to my house out of convenience. I want you to read where Peter makes fun of my appearance. Read it all, and then tell me if I'm overreacting." Austin reluctantly approached the screen. He began to read in a low voice. "Louder," I yelled. "I want Rachel to hear what you've all done too." He started reading the comments aloud, one by one. With each word, his voice got quieter. Rachel had sat on the sofa with her head in her hands. When he finished, the silence in the living room was deafening. "Now," I said with a calm that surprised me after all the explosion. "Tell me again that I'm overreacting. Tell me this is just a family joke. Tell me that a 68-year-old mother doesn't have the right to feel humiliated when her own children turn her into an object of public ridicule." Neither of them answered. For the first time in years, my children were speechless. Austin was staring at the floor as if it were the most interesting thing in the world, and Rachel was quietly sobbing on the sofa. "You know what's most ironic about all of this?" I continued. "You made fun of my irritating voice, but now that I'm finally using that voice to defend myself, to say what I think, to demand respect, it turns out you don't like to hear it." My phone rang. It was Peter. Austin had probably told him they were here, and he wanted to join the conversation to try and control the situation. "Hello, Peter," I answered, putting the phone on speaker so everyone could hear. "Eleanor, I'm outside your house. Can I come in? I think we need to work this out as a family." "Of course, come in, but I warn you that the conversation isn't going to be pleasant." Peter walked in, and I immediately noticed he had brought Miranda with him. My daughter-in-law, who had actively participated in humiliating me, was now here with a nervous smile, trying to act as if nothing had happened. "Hi, Eleanor," Miranda said with that sweet fake voice she used when she wanted something. "How are you?" "I'm perfectly fine, Miranda. In fact, I've never felt more lucid. How are you? Have you decided what you're going to do about the $200 you spent on my credit card last month?" Her smile vanished immediately. "Oh, Eleanor, I forgot to mention that. Like I said, I was going to pay you back when I got my bonus." "Your bonus from 6 months ago? The same bonus you used to go on vacation to Cancun while I was still waiting for you to pay me back?" Peter cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Eleanor, I think we're all being very dramatic about something that got out of control. We can resolve this like adults." "Dramatic. Interesting choice of words. Peter, you know who else called me dramatic? My sister Sophia in one of her comments on the poll. Apparently my whole family thinks I'm dramatic when I demand a minimum of respect." At that moment, my phone began to ring repeatedly. They were calls from unknown numbers. The poll had gone so viral that local reporters had started contacting me for interviews. A radio station wanted to know my side of the story. An entertainment blogger wanted to write an article about the viral grandma phenomenon. "See this?" I said, showing them my phone. "Reporters are calling me because the humiliation you created has become local news. My pain is now entertainment for the whole city." Rachel stood up from the sofa. "Mom, can we fix this? Can I delete the poll?" "Delete the poll?" I laughed bitterly. "Rachel, the poll has been shared more than 2,000 times. It's in Facebook groups all over the region. It has been screenshotted, commented on in other places. You can't just delete viral humiliation." "But we can try." "No, there's no going back. You all made the decision to expose my private life for public entertainment. Now you have to live with the consequences." My phone rang again. This time it was my bank. "Ms. Eleanor, I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but we've received several calls from people trying to make withdrawals or transfers from your accounts. Apparently, someone is claiming to have legal power over your finances." I looked directly at Rachel. "You tried to access my accounts." "Mom, I just wanted to see if you had really canceled the transfers." "You just tried to rob me. After publicly humiliating me, your next step was to try to illegally access my money." Peter quickly intervened. "Eleanor, wait. Rachel was worried because you're acting so strange. We thought maybe you needed help." "Help? The same kind of help you've been giving me for years. The help that consists of taking my money, using my services for free, and then making fun of me in public." Just then, another car pulled up. It was Veronica, my sister-in-law, accompanied by Sophia, my sister, the women who had so cruelly commented on the poll. Now they were coming to confront me in person. "Are you all going to have a family intervention?" I asked sarcastically. "Are you going to tell me I'm crazy because I finally stood up for myself?" Veronica walked in with her usual arrogant attitude. "Eleanor, we're all worried about you. This reaction isn't normal. Maybe you need professional help." "Professional help?" "Veronica, you commented on the poll saying that someone finally had the courage to say what we all think." Now it turns out I'm the one who needs help. Sophia, my own sister, approached with tears in her eyes. Eleanor, forgive me. I didn't think you would find out. There it is again, I exploded. You didn't think I would find out. What world do you people live in? Do you think I'm so stupid that I wouldn't see a viral poll about myself? It's not that, sis. You wrote that now you understand why your kids don't visit me much. My own sister publicly validating that I'm an unpleasant person. The atmosphere in my living room had become tenser than ever before. 7 people who had participated directly or indirectly in my humiliation were now in front of me, trying to control a situation that had completely spun out of their hands. You know what's going to happen now, I told them with a terrifying calm. You are going to live with the consequences of your actions. Rachel, your attempted illegal access to my bank accounts will be reported as appropriate. Peter, I want you to remove all your things from my garage today and pay me the $9,600 in back rent. Austin, you have until Friday to give me a written payment plan or I'll start legal action to recover my money. Mom, you can't be serious, Austin murmured. Do you still not understand that I'm completely serious? What part of I will no longer tolerate your disrespect do you not comprehend? Miranda started to cry. Eleanor, I just wrote that comment. Why? Why what, Miranda? Because you really think it was about time someone publicly humiliated me? Because after I helped you with your cosmetic surgery, after I watched your kids, after I included you in my family like a daughter, you really think I deserve to be ridiculed? No, it's not that. Then explain to me what it is. Explain to me why a daughter-in-law who has received only love and support from me decides it's appropriate to participate in a public campaign to humiliate her mother-in-law. The silence that followed was more deafening than all my yelling combined. 7 people who for years had taken my generosity for granted finally understood that their actions had consequences. The reality of what they had done began to hit each of them in a different way. Rachel was crying openly, but they weren't tears of genuine repentance. They were tears of panic because she realized she was going to lose access to the money and free services she had taken for granted for years. Mom, please, she begged. My kids need you. You can't punish your grandkids for something I did. Now my grandkids need me, I replied. How interesting. Yesterday, when you wrote that they were embarrassed to bring friends home because of me, you didn't seem to think they needed me for anything. That comment was cruel, I admit, but you can't cut off all contact with us. For this. I'm not cutting off contact, Rachel. I'm setting boundaries for the first time in my life. I am demanding the respect I deserve. If you want me to be a part of your lives, it's going to be on my terms, not under the conditions of emotional abuse and financial exploitation that you have normalized. Peter approached with his usual conciliatory attitude. Eleanor, I understand you're upset, but let's be realistic. We all depend on you in some way. Are you really going to destroy the family over a joke that got out of control? Destroy the family, I repeated slowly. Peter, the family was destroyed the moment you all decided to turn the matriarch into a public object of ridicule. I am not destroying anything. I am stopping my support of a toxic family structure where my role is to be the silent provider who puts up with humiliation with a smile. Veronica dared to speak again. Eleanor, all families have problems. You can't be so vindictive. Vindictive, Veronica? You actively participated in humiliating me, and now you call me vindictive for defending myself? You know what really bothers me about your comment? That you said, finally someone had the courage to say what we all think. That means that for years, every time you came to my house, every time you accepted my food, every time you asked me for favors, you were thinking horrible things about me. That's not true. Of course it's true. You wrote it yourself. What we all think. Who is we all, Veronica? How many people in my close circle have been faking affection while secretly despising me? Sophia, my sister, approached me timidly. Eleanor, I wrote that because I was upset with you about something that happened months ago. Upset about what, Sophia? For me not lending you money the last time you asked? For not being able to watch your granddaughter when you had that doctor's appointment? Why exactly were you so upset that you considered it appropriate to publicly humiliate me? It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal to you, but to me, the target of the humiliation, it was. Do you know what it's like to read a comment from your own sister validating that you're an unpleasant person? Do you know what it's like to find out that the people you love most secretly think you're annoying? Austin finally spoke, his voice cracking. Mom, we don't think you're annoying, just sometimes. Sometimes what, Austin? Finish the sentence. Now that we're being honest, tell me exactly what you think of me. Sometimes we feel like you pressure us too much, that you want to be too involved in our lives, that I love you too much, that I worry too much, that I want to spend time with my children and grandchildren more than you consider normal. That's what you're holding against me? It's not that. Yes, it is. You're punishing me for being a mother who loves unconditionally, who worries, who wants to be present in your lives. You're punishing me for not being one of those distant mothers you see once a year at Christmas. Miranda interrupted, crying, Eleanor, we appreciate everything you do for us. Appreciate, Miranda? If you appreciated what I do, you wouldn't have participated in ridiculing me. If you appreciated my generosity, you wouldn't take for granted that it will always be available no matter how you treat me. My phone rang again. This time it was the local radio station. Excuse me, I told everyone. I'm going to take this call because apparently the press is more interested in hearing my side of the story than my own family. I answered the phone in front of all of them. Hello, this is Eleanor. Ms. Eleanor, I'm Maria Diaz from the Morning Buzz show on City Radio. We've seen the viral poll about you, and we'd like to invite you on tomorrow to tell your side of the story. A lot of listeners are showing support for you. Really? People are showing support for me? Of course, many women your age have called in, outraged because they consider what was done to you to be a form of family abuse. Would you be willing to come on the show? I looked at my family gathered in my living room. They all watched me with growing panic as they realized the story was getting completely out of their control. You know what, Maria? Yes, I would love to be on your show. I have a lot to say about what it means to be a 68-year-old mother in a culture that doesn't respect its elders. Perfect. Does 9 a.m. tomorrow morning work for you? It's perfect. I'll be there. I hung up and saw the horrified faces of my family. You're going to talk about us on the radio? Rachel asked in a trembling voice. I'm going to talk about the mistreatment of older people in a family context. I'm going to talk about how women of my generation have normalized being treated as providers of free services without receiving the basic respect we deserve. But you're going to mention our names, Austin said. I don't need to mention specific names. The reality speaks for itself. Besides, you all already took care of making our family situation public with that poll. Peter looked more and more nervous. Eleanor, this is going to affect my business. If the people in the neighborhood hear that on the radio, they'll know it's me. My clients will think badly of me. You should have thought about that before you publicly made fun of my appearance, Peter. Actions have consequences. You can't ruin our reputations over this, Miranda shouted, finally losing her composure. Ruin your reputations, Miranda? You all ruined your own reputations when you decided to participate in publicly humiliating a 68-year-old woman. I'm just going to tell my truth. Veronica stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Eleanor, you're taking this too far. It was just the internet. It's not real life. It's not real life, Veronica. 1,000 people have seen that poll. People from my work, from my church, from the supermarket where I shop, from the bank where I do my transactions. Are you going to tell me that's not real life? But nobody takes it seriously. I take it seriously. I'm the one who has to walk down the street knowing that people have seen me ridiculed on the internet. I'm the one who has to live with the humiliation you created. Sophia approached and tried to take my hand. Sister, please, can we fix this in private? Don't involve the media. I pulled my hand away abruptly. Now you want privacy? When you decide to humiliate me, you do it publicly and virally. But when it comes to the consequences, you want privacy. It's different. It's not different. You all chose to make our family dynamic public when you created that poll. Now I choose to make my response public. The difference is that my response is going to be based on truth and dignity, not on cruelty and humiliation." In that moment, I realized something fundamental. For the first time in 68 years, I felt completely free. Free from the need to be the perfect mother, the understanding sister, the accommodating mother-in-law. Free from the burden of the emotional and financial expectations of people who saw me as an available resource, not as a person worthy of respect. "You know what's most liberating about all of this?" I said as I walked towards the door. "I finally understood that I don't need your approval to value myself. For decades, I sought your love, your respect, your gratitude. I thought that if I gave enough, if I sacrificed enough, you would finally see me as I deserve to be seen." I opened the door wide. But now I understand that the problem was never me. The problem is all of you. A family that confused generosity with weakness, that interpreted unconditional love as permission to mistreat me. I want all of you to leave my house right now. No one moved. They just stood there as if they couldn't believe I was actually kicking them out of my house. For decades, my home had been their refuge, their safe space, their free port where they always found food, money, and comfort. Now, for the first time in their lives, they were being expelled. "You're not going to leave peacefully," I said calmly. "That's fine. I'll call the police to help you understand that when a person tells you to leave their private property, you have to go." That threat woke them up. Rachel was the first to walk towards the door, but she stopped in front of me. "Mom, this can't end like this. We're your family." "Rachel, my family ends where public humiliation begins. You all crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Now you have to live with the consequences." One by one, they left. Peter mumbled something about coming back for his stuff from the garage, but I didn't answer him. Austin walked past me without looking me in the eye. Miranda was sobbing dramatically, hoping her crying would make me change my mind. Veronica and Sophia left together, whispering to each other as if they were planning their next move. When I closed the door, the silence in my house was absolutely perfect. For the first time in years, my home was truly mine. There were no demanding voices, no people expecting me to cook, to lend money, to solve problems. Just me in my peaceful space. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my favorite sofa. I opened my computer and saw that the poll had continued to grow. It now had over 1,000 votes and had been shared in Facebook groups in 3 different states. The comments had evolved. They were no longer just taunts about my appearance. Now there were debates about family respect, elder abuse, and dignity. Some women had started sharing their own stories of family humiliation. "My daughter-in-law does the exact same thing to me," one woman wrote. "She makes fun of my clothes and my habits in front of her friends." Another woman commented, "My kids think that because I'm their mother, I have an obligation to put up with any disrespect." For the first time since I had discovered the poll, I felt validated. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. There were other women living similar situations of emotional abuse disguised as family jokes. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Ms. Eleanor, I'm Robert Jones from the local newspaper, The Journal. Several people have contacted us worried about your situation. We're talking about a case of family abuse here." "Good question, Robert. What do you think? Do you consider it normal for a family to turn its matriarch into an object of public ridicule on the internet?" "Frankly, ma'am, no. In fact, we have several documented cases of this type of emotional abuse towards older people. Would you like us to write an article about your experience?" "I would love that, but I don't want it to be just about me. I want it to be about all the women of my generation who have normalized being treated as providers of services without receiving basic respect." "Perfect. We could do an interview tomorrow afternoon after your radio appearance. How do you know about the radio, Ms. Eleanor?" "Your story is going viral for the right reasons. Many people are outraged by what they did to you. You're becoming a symbol of resistance for older women who have lived through similar situations." After I hung up, I reflected on his words. A symbol of resistance. I had never thought of myself that way. For decades, I had seen myself as a loving mother who was perhaps too permissive. Now, I was beginning to understand that I had been an abused woman who had normalized the mistreatment. At 9 p.m., my phone started ringing constantly. Rachel called me 12 times in a row, Austin 6 times, Peter 4 times. I didn't answer any of the calls. Finally, Rachel sent me a long text message. "Mom, please answer. Peter lost 3 clients today. Apparently, someone shared the poll in the neighborhood business owners WhatsApp group, and now everyone knows he's the one who made fun of you. He says his reputation is ruined and he's going to lose his business. Austin is also worried because his coworkers saw the poll and are making comments about him. Miranda doesn't want to leave the house because she says the neighbors are looking at her funny. Mom, this is getting out of control. Please call us so we can fix this before you go on the radio tomorrow." I read the message 3 times. Their words confirmed something I had suspected. They weren't sorry for having humiliated me. They were worried about the consequences they were facing. I sent them a simple message in reply. Actions have consequences. You chose to publicly humiliate me. Now you are living with the public consequences of your actions. Immediately, more messages came in. Austin, Mom, you can't ruin our lives over this. Think about your grandkids. Peter, Eleanor, I lost $2,000 in contracts today. This is affecting my livelihood. Miranda, Eleanor, the women at work are asking if I'm the daughter-in-law who humiliated her mother-in-law. It's so embarrassing. Veronica, Eleanor, my husband is furious with me. He says, what was I thinking getting involved in family problems that didn't concern me? Please, tell the reporter I'm not your sister-in-law. Sophia, Sister, my kids yelled at me for writing that comment. They say they see me differently now. Please help me fix this. Each message gave me more satisfaction. They were finally experiencing a fraction of the humiliation they had made me feel. The difference was that they had brought it upon themselves with their cruel actions, while I had been an innocent victim of their family's sadism. At 10 p.m., my doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw that it was Rachel, alone. This time, she had her keys in her hand, obviously expecting to get in just as she always had. I didn't open the door. I spoke to her through the window. The keys don't work anymore, Rachel. I changed the locks this afternoon. You changed the locks, Mom? This is my house, too. I grew up here. This is my house, and as of today, only people who respect me are allowed in. Open up, please. We have to talk. We already talked this afternoon. You said everything you had to say in that poll. There's nothing else to discuss. Mom, please. Peter is desperate. He says if this keeps up, he's going to have to close his business. He should have thought about that before he made fun of my appearance in public. It was just a joke. Stop saying it was a joke, I yelled through the window. A joke doesn't destroy a person's self-esteem. A joke doesn't humiliate someone in front of their entire community. What you all did was calculated cruelty. Rachel began to cry dramatically. Mom, we need you. You can't abandon us like this. I didn't abandon you. You all abandoned me first. You abandoned me emotionally every time you disrespected me. You abandoned me every time you took my generosity for granted. You abandoned me when you decided it was acceptable to turn me into an object of public ridicule. We're your family. No, my family would have defended me when strangers made fun of me on the internet. My family would have deleted those cruel comments instead of writing more. My family would have protected me instead of exposing me. Rachel stood sobbing in my yard for another 15 minutes. She finally realized that I wasn't going to change my mind and left. That night, I slept better than I had in years. There was no guilt, no doubt about my decision, just a deep peace that came from having reclaimed my dignity. The next day, I woke up with an energy I hadn't felt in decades. I put on my favorite red dress, carefully put on my makeup, and did my hair as if it were a special occasion. Because that's exactly what it was, the occasion when I would finally tell my truth. I arrived at the radio station at 8:30 a.m. Maria Diaz greeted me with a warm, genuine smile that I hadn't seen from a woman towards me in a long time. Ms. Eleanor, thank you for coming. I have to tell you that since yesterday, we've received more than 200 calls from women who want to support you. Your story has touched a very sensitive nerve in our community. Seriously, 200 calls? And counting. Apparently, there are many women who have lived through similar situations of family disrespect. Some want to share their own experiences on the air. While we waited for the show to start, Maria showed me some of the messages that had come into the station. My daughter-in-law treats me exactly the same way. She always finds a way to humiliate me in front of her friends, but when she needs me to watch the kids, then I'm the perfect grandma. My own children see me as an ATM. They only call me when they need money, but never to ask how I am. I'm 72 years old, and my family makes me feel like I'm a burden. After raising them alone and giving them everything, now I'm a nuisance to them. Each message confirmed that my experience wasn't unique. There was a silent epidemic of mistreatment towards older women within their own families. When the show began, Maria introduced me as a brave woman who decided not to stay silent in the face of family abuse. Ms. Eleanor, tell us what happened exactly. I took a deep breath and began to tell my story. Not just the poll, but the entire context. The years of giving money without receiving gratitude, of watching grandkids for free while being criticized for my methods, of cooking for the whole family and ending up doing the dishes alone. I told them about the loans that were never paid back, about the constant humiliations disguised as jokes, about the way I had normalized being treated as a provider of services instead of a respected matriarch. As I spoke, the phone lines became saturated. Maria gestured to me that they had more than 50 calls on hold. "You know what's saddest about all of this?" I said into the microphone. For decades, I thought it was my fault. I thought that if I were a better mother, more generous, more understanding, I would finally earn the respect I deserved. But now I understand that the problem was never me. What message would you like to give to other women who are living in similar situations? To set boundaries, to understand that generosity doesn't mean being a doormat, that true love includes mutual respect, and that it's never, ever too late to reclaim your dignity. They started putting listeners' calls on the air. "Ms. Eleanor, I'm Rose. I'm 65 years old. I want you to know that you inspired me to confront my family. I've been treated the same way for years, and I thought it was normal. Eleanor, I'm Martha. My son has been treating me like an ATM for years. After hearing you, I decided to cut off the money supply. Thank you for giving me the courage." "Ma'am, I'm Carmen. I'm 70 years old, and my daughters-in-law constantly humiliate me. Your story made me understand that I don't have to put up with that." Each call gave me more strength. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I had touched on a universal issue that many women had experienced in silence. When the show ended, Maria hugged me. "Ms. Eleanor, this has been one of the most impactful shows we've ever had. You've inspired so many women." I left the station feeling like a completely new person. In the parking lot, a surprise awaited me. There were at least 20 women of different ages with signs that read, "We support Eleanor," "Respect for our elders," "Stop family abuse." A gray-haired woman approached me. "Ms. Eleanor, I'm the president of the Women of Dignity group in our city. Would you like to be our spokesperson? We need someone like you who has the courage to talk about these issues." "Spokesperson?" I asked, surprised. "Yes, we want to organize workshops on family boundaries, on the rights of older people, on how to identify emotional abuse. Your story can help a lot of women." As I talked to her, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Rachel, Austin, Peter, all calling desperately. I didn't answer any of the calls. I returned home and found Peter sitting in my yard, surrounded by boxes. He had come for his things from the garage. "Eleanor, please," he begged when he saw me arrive. "My business is in ruins. I lost 5 more clients this morning. The people in the neighborhood don't trust me anymore." "Peter, actions have consequences," I replied calmly. "You chose to participate in publicly humiliating me. Now you are living with the social consequences of your actions." "But how was I supposed to know it was going to get so big? It was just the internet." That's exactly the mentality that got you into trouble. You thought you could humiliate me without consequences because it was just the internet, as if my feelings weren't real, as if my dignity didn't matter. Eleanor, forgive me. Please help me fix this. You want me to help you? Then do something you've never done. Publicly acknowledge that what you did was wrong. Post a real apology in the same place where you humiliated me. Acknowledge that you participated in family abuse and pay me the $9,600 you owe me. Peter looked desperate. A public apology? Can't we just resolve this in private? You humiliated me in public. Your amends must be public too. As Peter was loading his boxes, the journalist Robert Jones arrived for our interview. More women who had heard the radio show and wanted to meet me also arrived. "Ms. Eleanor," a young woman said to me, "my grandma lived through the exact same thing as you. She died feeling despised by her own family. I wish she had had your courage to stand up for herself." Another woman added, "You are speaking for all the grandmas who have been emotionally mistreated. You are so brave." During the interview with the journalist, I was able to better articulate what I had learned. The problem isn't that families have conflicts. The problem is when a person, especially an older woman, is systematically disrespected and then told she's overreacting when she defends herself. It's a form of family gaslighting. "Family gaslighting?" Robert asked. "Yes. They make you believe that your feelings aren't valid, that you're being dramatic, that it's your fault for being sensitive. For years, I believed the problem was mine for being too sensitive to constant humiliations. What advice would you give to other women in similar situations? To trust their instincts. If something feels like disrespect, it probably is. To not normalize mistreatment just because it comes from family, and to understand that setting boundaries isn't being a bad person, it's being a person who values herself. That afternoon, while checking my email, I found something unexpected. Dozens of messages from women all over the country who had seen the news online. Women sharing their stories, thanking me for my bravery, asking for advice. An 80-year-old woman wrote to me, "Eleanor, thank you for doing what I never had the courage to do. My family has treated me like I'm invisible for years, but after reading your story, I decided to talk to them." Another woman told me, "My adult daughter always criticizes my clothes, my house, my way of speaking. I thought it was normal because she just wants the best for me. Now I understand it's disrespect disguised as concern." That evening, I finally decided to answer a call from Rachel. "Mom, please," she was crying. "This is out of control. You're on the news. People are protesting outside of Peter's house. Miranda had to ask for time off from work because she can't concentrate. Please, say something to calm the situation." "You want me to calm the situation?" I asked. "Okay, I'm going to say exactly what I think." "Mom, what exactly are you going to say?" Rachel asked in a trembling voice. "I'm going to tell the truth, that for decades I normalized being treated as a provider of services instead of being respected as a matriarch, that I confused unconditional love with allowing emotional abuse, and that at 68 I finally learned that I deserve dignity. But Mom, think about the consequences for us." "Now you're worried about the consequences. How interesting. When you created that poll to humiliate me, did you think about the consequences for me? Did you think about how I would feel seeing 1,000 strangers making fun of my physical appearance? It was different." "It wasn't different, Rachel. It was exactly the same. You all made decisions that affected me deeply without considering my feelings. Now I'm making decisions that affect you. The difference is that my decisions are based on dignity and self-respect, not on cruelty and humiliation." I hung up and reflected on the last 3 days. In 72 hours, my life had completely changed. I had gone from being the grandma who put up with everything quietly to becoming a symbol of resistance for women who had lived through similar situations. My phone continued to ring constantly. Journalists, television producers, elder rights organizations, they all wanted to talk to me. A university had invited me to give a lecture on family dignity in old age. A national TV channel wanted to make a documentary about emotional abuse toward older women. The next day, I decided to do something I had never done in my life. I went for a walk downtown with my head held high, not worrying about what people thought. To my surprise, several people recognized me and came over to say hello. "Ms. Eleanor, you're my hero," a woman in her 20s said to me. "My grandma lives with us, and my parents treat her terribly. After hearing your story, I told them they had to change their attitude." An older man came over and shook my hand. "Eleanor, my wife passed away last year, feeling despised by our kids. I wish she had had your courage to stand up for herself. Thank you for speaking for all the women who can no longer speak." But what impacted me the most was running into my old neighbor, Mrs. Carmen, who was 75. "Eleanor," she told me with tears in her eyes, "after hearing your show on the radio, I confronted my family. I've been living with my son and his wife for 10 years, being treated like a free babysitter and an unpaid maid. Yesterday, I told them that was over." "And what happened?" I asked her. "At first, they got angry. They told me I was being ungrateful, that they gave me a roof over my head and food. But then, my daughter-in-law came crying, saying that she hadn't realized how they were treating me, that she thought I was happy helping. Today, for the first time in years, she cooked and I rested." Stories like Carmen's came to me every day, women who had decided to set boundaries after hearing my experience, families who had started difficult conversations about respect and dignity. 3 weeks after the viral poll, Rachel showed up at my door. She looked different, thinner, dark circles under her eyes, a humility I had never seen in her. "Mom, can we talk?" she asked softly. I let her in, but I didn't hug her as I would have before. We sat in the living room as if we were two strangers. "Mom, I've been in therapy," she began. "The therapist made me see things I had never understood. She made me read articles about emotional abuse towards older people. She helped me understand that what we did to you wasn't a joke. It was cruelty." I listened without interrupting. "She also made me calculate all the money you've given us over the years. It's over $80,000, Mom. $80,000 that came out of your savings to support us, and our way of thanking you was to publicly humiliate you." "And what do you plan to do with that information?" I asked her. "I want to pay you back everything. Peter sold his truck to start paying you what he owes. Austin got a second job. I'm going to sell some things. It's not going to be fast, but we're going to give you back every penny." "And is that enough for you? Do you think money can fix emotional damage?" Rachel began to cry, but they weren't the manipulative tears from before. They were tears of genuine repentance. "No, Mom, I know money can't fix what we did. I know we broke something that maybe can never be completely repaired, but I want to try. I want to learn to treat you as you deserve. I want my kids to learn to respect you as their grandmother, not as the free provider we turned you into." I was silent for several minutes, processing her words. "Rachel, I appreciate your apology, but you need to understand that things are never going to be the same. I'm no longer the woman who puts up with everything quietly to keep the family peace. I'm a woman who knows her worth and demands respect. I understand, Mom, and I want to get to know that woman. I want to learn to have a relationship with you based on respect, not on the habit of taking you for granted." 6 months later, my life had completely transformed. I had become an activist for the rights of older people. I traveled the country giving lectures on family dignity. I had written a book titled "It's Never Too Late to Reclaim Your Worth," which had become a bestseller. My relationship with my family had slowly improved. It wasn't the same as before, but it was more honest. Rachel was attending family therapy with me. Austin had started paying me monthly, and for the first time in years, he treated me like an adult treats an adult, not like a spoiled child treats a permissive mother. Peter had made a public apology on his social media and had begun to rebuild his reputation based on honesty instead of family connections. Miranda had publicly apologized to me on her social media and was now one of the women who most defended her mothers-in-law in her social circle. But not everything had been easy. Sophia, my sister, had completely cut off contact with me. She said I ruined the family harmony and turned a private problem into a public spectacle. Veronica also distanced herself. Some friendships of decades were lost because they considered my reaction to be an overreaction. At first, that hurt. I thought that maybe I had lost too much in my quest for dignity, but then I understood something fundamental. The relationships based on my silence and my submission weren't real relationships. They were transactions where I gave respect and resources in exchange for an illusion of harmony. Last month, I received a letter that made me cry with joy. It was from a 72-year-old woman in Mexico who had seen my story online. "Dear Eleanor," she wrote, "I want you to know that you saved my life, literally. After reading your story, I confronted my family about years of emotional mistreatment. My son and daughter-in-law had turned my house into a free hotel where they came whenever they wanted. They ate my food, used my things, and left without even saying thank you. When I tried to talk about how I felt, they told me I was being dramatic. Your bravery gave me the courage to set boundaries. Now, for the first time in 10 years, I feel respected in my own home." Letters like that arrive at my office weekly. Women from Brazil, Argentina, Spain, all telling me how my story inspired them to reclaim their self-worth. 3 months ago, the National University awarded me an honorary doctorate in social work for my contribution to raising awareness about abuse towards older people. When I went up to the podium to receive the recognition, I thought about the woman I was a year ago, silent, resigned, convinced that my only value was in what I could give to others. Now I am a woman who knows that her worth doesn't depend on her usefulness to others, who understands that true love includes mutual respect, who has learned that setting boundaries is not selfishness, it's self-care. Was I too harsh? Did I take things too far? I'm asked those questions constantly in interviews. My answer is always the same. For 68 years, I was too soft. 1 year of firmness doesn't make up for decades of allowing abuse. The poll my daughter created to humiliate me is still on the internet. It no longer hurts me to see it. In fact, I keep it as a reminder of where my liberation began. The comments have completely changed. Now it's filled with messages of support, of women sharing their own stories, of people reflecting on how they treat the older women in their families. This morning, while drinking my coffee and watching the sunrise over the ocean, I received a message from my granddaughter, the same one who had shown me the poll on that terrible day. "Grandma," she wrote, "I want to apologize for being a part of hurting you. Now that I'm 17, I understand better what happened. At my school, they give talks on family bullying, thanks to your work. I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You are the bravest woman I know." Those words confirmed that I had made the right decision. I hadn't just saved myself. I had helped change the conversation about how we treat our elders. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a witch with a turkey neck. I see a warrior who fought the most important battle of her life, the battle for her own dignity, and won. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.